Senator Coons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member. Thank you, Chairman Menendez, for leading this effort to focus on the tools that we need to help strengthen our ability to respond to economic coercion that targets countries that seek to achieve their own place in the world. You've done a lot of focusing on Lithuania here. I was at another hearing. I may have missed a conversation about Australia as well. There's many other cases of economic coercion. One of the things I think we need to do is to provide rapid and targeted support. In the case of Australia, which I've followed in some detail, it was mostly perishable agricultural products from lobster tails to beef that were the subject of abrupt changes in import patterns. And it can take quite a while for us to move to respond to economic coercion. Senator Young and I have introduced the Bipartisan Countering Economic Coercion Act, which would provide new authorities for rapid and targeted support to allies and to punish countries carrying out malign behavior. My goal here, frankly, is when China causes economic pain, for us to be able to step in with support, creating time for supply chains to shift and markets to adjust. Undersecretary Fernandez, thank you for your leadership in coordinating the response to the use of economic coercion against Lithuania. What existing tools have been the most effective with economic coercion? And briefly, what additional tools would be most helpful?
Thank you for your question, and really thank you for your thought leadership on this. This is very much appreciated. A number of things that we learned along the way. One was that one response was just to make sure that countries understood that we had their back. One of the first things we did with respect to Lithuania is Secretary Blinken and several other U.S. government officials actually spoke out against coercion. So just the ability to support another country was something that was quite welcome. And that didn't take long. That was something we could do in a couple of days. I do agree with you that flexibility and speed are important. And I think we have discussed it with your staff as well. We have tools. You've given us a number of tools, and some of them actually we discovered along the way. Exxon, DOD, Commerce, USDA, and others. The issue of perishable goods is one that I noted earlier. I think that bears some discussion. That is one that's been used, was used by the PRC with respect to Australia. So lessons, speed, flexibility, political support. We've also put together an economics, our economists and an economics vulnerability study that we can use to try and see what the PRC is targeting, realizing that they're always going to throw us a curveball.
Thank you.
And so we've got to be prepared for that.
Thank you, Undersecretary. The FY24 State and Foreign Operations Appropriations Bill just got voted out of the Appropriations Committee by a broad bipartisan margin, and it includes a $560 million new economic resilience initiative to expand investments in critical minerals, to secure supply chains, and to invest in high-quality infrastructure. It includes a $200 million account for Treasury to increase financing through international financial institutions for infrastructure that'll help mitigate partner nation reliance on substandard or coercive lending. I'd be interested, Mr. Undersecretary Shambaugh, if you have any comments for me about how we can increase our competitive engagement in this front. And in particular, one of the things I've been trying to fix is the Development Finance Corporation and the equity scoring, which limits its scope and reach. From your perspective, are there other authority gaps that you've identified where we could be doing more?
Thank you, Senator. I'd say the account you mentioned would be incredibly helpful to us because it's flexible. And as we've talked about, being able to be nimble here is going to be very important. But I think it's also because it lets us try to make countries less vulnerable to this. So there's one thing to talk about how we're going to respond. Another thing is to make these countries less vulnerable to being cut off from China, to make sure that they don't need Chinese funding for their infrastructure, to make sure they don't need Chinese funding to keep their businesses going is one of the things we can do. And using the multilateral development banks, other international financial institutions, as well as you said, the DFC, these are all different ways we can make it that China doesn't have the tools to try to be creative, as Undersecretary Fernandez said, about how they extract pain on countries.
Thank you both. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look forward to working together on this.
Thank you. Senator Shaheen.
Good morning. Thank you both for being here. As I said to you when I saw you, I very much appreciate your connections to Dartmouth. We assume that anybody who